Joining us to take a closer look at Gaza and the situation, Joel Rubin. Joel is a former Deputy U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for House Affairs. Joel, good to see you again, my friend. Thank you for taking
You
time.
too, Sean. Thanks.
Significant movement in the region in just the past week. Now we see all these aid vehicles rolling into Gaza, clearly needed. Optimism, however, remains tempered. What do you see right now as the biggest threat to a lasting peace in Gaza?
Well, you know, Sean, you're right. There is optimism now, and there should be. This has been a ceasefire that's held now for over a week, or just about a week, and it looks like we're on schedule to have more prisoner releases in exchange for hostages this weekend. So that's good news, and with the aid coming in as well. But, you know, to maintain this and keep the momentum going, the negotiations for the phase 2 of this deal, which would begin after 6 weeks, those negotiations need to commence now. Right. They need to be serious, and that's what will keep the momentum going and keep the optimism that there really is a future of stability.
You know, I had a chance to go back and look at some of your interviews, things that you've said about the situation, and you've talked about how important it's going to be for the international community to remain engaged, and the Trump administration as well, having a significant amount of clout with Israel and also Arab nations that are going to be needed to commit to help fund the rebuilding there.
You got it, and it was very important, I believe, that President Trump, his first foreign leader phone call yesterday went to Mohammed bin Salman, the de facto leader of Saudi Arabia, who would be looked to help finance a reconstruction. But there's a price as well, which is that Saudi Arabia, to get involved, they're going to want to see progress on Israeli-Palestinian peacemaking and potentially a two-state solution. So that's part of the goal here. And that would be from a phase 3 perspective, to keep this hostage release ceasefire going while they look to a real, truer future. But that requires external pressure. Without it, the two parties are likely to fall back into fighting.
You know, I want to talk a bit more about the prisoners and also the hostages who have been there. And when I wrote this down, you know, it was hard to even believe, October 7th, 2023. What more can the international community do to engage Palestinians, and your thoughts on the future of the hostages who've just been held there for so long?
Look, you know, it was a deplorable, despicable attack on October 7th, 2023, where not only were 1,200 Israelis massacred, but more than 200, roughly 250 stolen, taken into Gaza and put underground. And that trauma is still sitting with Israel. And then the trauma for the Palestinian people of this war, the last 15 plus months. And so there need to be alternatives. You know, at the end of the day, the Palestinian people deserve a robust state and a leadership that gives them freedom. Unfortunately, it looks like Hamas is clamping down again right now in Gaza. And yet there's a Palestinian Authority in the West Bank that has governing capacity. So I think the outside world needs to look at the Palestinians and help them to develop a legitimate political program that can run Gaza that would be respected and respectable. And that means everybody has to give a little, including the Israelis, right, to try to make that happen. I think that's where the phase 3 comes in. That's the real long-term goal for peace, to get to stability where the Palestinians govern themselves and maintain peace and security alongside Israel.
Okay, stay with me on this one, because this question is kind of complex, but this plan that was approved really goes back to May in the Biden administration. So A, why is it succeeding now? And clearly Israel is not going to get everything it wants. The biggest concern that Hamas could literally rise from the ashes.
Well, you know, Sean, there are two different Israeli-Palestinian conflicts. There's the one in the real world between the Israelis and the Palestinians in the Middle East. And then there's one from a Washington perspective happening here all the time in our politics. And President Biden, he had this idea, and his team did back in May. President-elect Trump, candidate Trump then at the time, and his allies opposed it. They rejected it. They made fun of it. And I think Prime Minister Netanyahu saw that and decided he had time. And of course, Hamas didn't really want to come to the table either. And so all of those events were percolating for the past year. But now after the election, now after Israel's devastating attacks on Hezbollah, again, of course, on Hamas and the Houthis and into Iran, and really changing the regional dynamics. And now with President Trump coming in and supporting that Biden plan, all of it came together. And that's what it takes. You know, in the Middle East, to get deals, sometimes it just takes strokes of luck, but timing is really what matters. And we finally had good timing at the end of December and into January.
Let's talk a bit more about the timing as well, because we just heard the significant concerns that the legions of people suffering in Gaza are suffering. So what challenges do you expect to see to keep aid flowing in? Because it wouldn't take a whole lot to basically shut that off.
No, it wouldn't take a lot. And the Israelis are allowing, per this deal, 700 trucks a day, as you're reporting. And I think there's a lot of, caution about that from the Israeli perspective, concern about will that aid go into the hands of Hamas and not into the Palestinian people. Then on the international level, the question is who's going to distribute that food in a consistent manner. The UN, RWA, UNRWA, really behaved in a very negative, deplorable manner over the past couple of years with supporting, in many instances, Hamas institutions. Yeah. And so Israel has lost faith with that. This goes to the point, though, of all of this, of phase 3, where you have a governance structure inside Gaza led by the Palestinians that can be trusted. That's how you ensure that aid continues to flow. If there's insecurity about it, from the Israeli perspective, that's where we can begin to see a shutdown in aid if they believe it's going to support Hamas and not to the Palestinian people.